I love music videos. I love making music videos. I love making music for music videos. In the process of my making videos, making music videos, making music, just having fun and doing me, I've found other people along the journey who are also on the pursuit of doing whatever it is that they want to do artistically. You know, other people who are the same age as me, who have been working and decided I would like to do that, not just as a hobby, but just give myself a chance and choose myself for a little bit and see how far I can go when the timing feels right. I had the pleasure of being able to talk with one of those fellow, what would you call it? I mean, you could say it's like, it's like a spiritual knot. I don't even know what that is. It's like risk knot. I'm going to regret even saying those words. Those are definitely not the words to describe it, but it's like someone who's able to take a leap of faith on themselves and do it and try it out and see how it goes. I've had the pleasure to speak with one of those fellow peoples named Erik Coates, and we go back. I just want to say that it was on Skype, so I recognize that the quality of audio for our conversation isn't the usual quality that I put out. So just bear in mind that I'm the only one maybe who thinks about these things too much, but I'm sure, if someone else out there is thinking like, darn, this audio quality is not the best. Like, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I can't believe I'm even admitting that, because you're not supposed to admit that. But I am going to, because I need to figure out a way to make it better. And it's about improvement. So anyway, back to this topic. Back to the show. Erik directed the music video for Be Afraid's Nothing Like Romance from their album The End Looks Like Prosperity, which was released in September 2023. He also filmed, edited, and directed the music video for Manco Wilder's Praise Be from his album There Is No Sunrise Yet to Come, which was released in October 13th, 2023. I think that was a Friday, so Friday the 13th. I think it's funny because those two albums, they are opposites in terms of the sayings, right? The sayings, they're like, it's like the dichotomy of people's perspective of what the future looks like. So in a way, it does a good job of also representing the two sides of Erik Coates from my perspective as, I guess, a person who has talked to him, but also who knows him as a friend. He's an enigma, but not that, how can I say it? It's also, he's the paradox itself. So, that sounds pretty scary. Like, he's a really lovely person, obviously, to talk to. He's my friend. So, but he's quite the paradox. You can't put him in a box. I, was in Sydney, Australia when I had this conversation with him. I saw his music video when it came out, when it was released on YouTube. And he had shared about it on his Instagram stories. I watched it and I was in such a, it just like hit a chord in me where I was like, this is great. Like I actually know Erik, so I can actually talk to him about the work that he did for the music video. The song is great. and the music video is so fun and great and well done. It's just seamless. So I was like, hey, I need to sit down and talk to Erik. I sent him a message. He was very kind to set up a time to talk to me the next day over Skype. I will say no more. Let's just get into it. Thanks so much for listening. And I hope you enjoy the conversation that Erik and I had.
Honestly, like learning the film editing software that was hard. I still don't know anything. I know very little, but that seemed more intuitive to me than the music production stuff. When I was in Halifax, my neighbor, who's also like my best friend there, we played a lot of music together. It was a very serendipitous thing that we happened to be neighbors and do a lot of the same stuff and have very compatible personalities. So we would hang out all the time and, just like jam. And then we recorded it like a few, like several songs, but he did all of the recording. And sometimes when I'm playing music, I'll like record real instruments. But I don't know when it comes to like mixing and mastering. That's I like kind of like watched him do it a little bit, and I have an idea of how it's done, but it's just like it's very laborious, and I don't feel like I'm very good at it, and it's just it's hard. I don't know.
There's a lot of like setting up that you have to do. And so you have to have like very forward vision thinking. So it's like you kind of have to have that end product, or at least some vague idea, notion of it. And then that's kind of like the baseline. You're like, okay, like I know I can produce that. And then like when you're doing, I don't know, like this is kind of my experience. Not that I'm like a master at it at all. I'm in a totally learning and like apprentice level right now. But like from my experience,
like good. It sounds not just. Music the music itself is good, but the like quality of the recording is good.
Yeah, so that's what I'm working on. It's a
cool thing to be able to do because that's very hard.
And it has a lot to do with your equipment. Obviously, it's like you have to have like certain equipment that you want that kind of sound to begin with, and so getting your hands on that is like a whole thing on its own. And then, I've like thrown myself into the hole of like people doing tech reviews on YouTube. And I've just been like, okay, like seriously, I don't really need to like watch all of these videos. I just want someone to kind of give me the equipment, and I'll just run with that and see how I feel about it. And kind of experiment with it first and then learn from that. That's how I learn, at least. It's like I just need to like do it, see how I feel about it. Okay, I don't like this sound. Maybe I'll try a different one. And then, but like, I've like watched reviews and I have been like this is a hole that I'm putting myself into. There's just too many microphones and they keep coming up with like new ones. And I'm like, okay.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff. It's like an infinite amount of things that you could learn.
Too many options.
What was your first instrument?
You're asking me questions. All right, cool. I like that. Because I'm going to ask you. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to ask you next. Yeah. Okay. But like my first was violin at 3. And then my mom, like she was really, early. And like, I had a traumatizing experience because it was like there was a huge recital and they had all of the ages of all the students come together to do this recital in a church in the small town of Niantic, Connecticut. It's like the town over, but in my mind, I thought it was one big town. And I was the youngest person in that room, and there were just so many people because there were students at the age of 50, learning violin for the first time. Yeah. And so their whole family and their kid, everyone's there recording on their like recorders, and everyone was like
the song started getting faster. It was like hot cross buns, and it just like got faster and faster and faster, and I couldn't keep up. And I like judged myself so hardcore at the age of 3 that I couldn't reach the speed of a 50-year-old, or like.
Well, geez. Oh,
so I was like comparing myself with like the wrong people, but
yeah. I mean, that's a hard thing when you're 3 to have that nuance and context to be like, it's okay to not be able to play as fast as this person 47 years older than me.
Right. And so everyone was like laughing because they thought it was cute, but I just like walked off the stage.
That's crazy that you remember this. You're very young.
It was recorded, but I remember like fragments. I remember being upset. Like I just remember the feeling, which is kind of how I know I was traumatized a little bit by it, because I don't remember exactly like the events, but my mom had footage and she told me the story as well, and I kind of put 2 to 2 to stitch it back.
Right.
But anyway, what was your first instrument?
That's when I was actually talking about this earlier today. I was piano when I was like 6 or 7. My dad got a piano. So I think my parents were separated already, but I guess they both thought that was a good thing for me to learn. And I think I took like 2 months of lessons or something. I did not like it. I did not follow through. I can like play it a little, like very, very, very rudimentary level. I was abandoned that, and then like I guess a year later or something, they're like, "Okay, Eric, what instrument are you going to play?" And I was like, "I want to play the bass. I think the bass is an instrument." Totally. And they were like, "You can't play the bass." And I was like, "Why not? You're too little. Your fingers are too small to press on the bass." And I was like, "Whatever, get me a little kid bass, like this." I mean, I didn't say that, but that was the sentiment.
You're like, duh, like just give me one I can play.
And then they were like, "Listen, Eric, like girls don't like bass players.
That's so not true."
Players.
Sorry.
And I was like, I'm 7 years old. Girls are gross. Like that's not a selling point for me. Like wait till I hit puberty for that to be a selling point.
But they were projecting,
it came from a place of goodwill. They're like, when he's like 15,
yes,
he's gonna. You can't like invite a girl over and be like, "Hey, babe, let me play you this song on the bass." I'm gonna play one ball on the bass for you.
I think bass is great. Like there's
the bass, whatever. They had. And so they were like, "You have to play guitar." So then I played guitar. That was the first one that I had lessons for like maybe a year and a half when I was in Toronto. With 2 different instructors who were both great, but very different approaches. And I didn't play for a while, and then kind of like relearned since. That's the only when I can play like at a moderate level. I can play the bass a little bit and play the piano a little bit. I can't really play any other instruments. I go through phases where I like practice a lot, and then I'll go phases where I just don't play at all.
For real. Yeah, I know what you mean.
I actually had the opposite, but also traumatizing experience. When I was like 24 or something, it was either at the very end of like undergrad or slightly after, I can't remember, but I decided to take piano lessons at the local community center. And the instructor was this old lady. She was very weird, and she I think she was just used to teaching children. So here's a hot cross buns for you to learn or whatever. And so I was like learning that. I was there for maybe, I don't know, 3 months or something. She was like, "So I'm having all my students are having a recital. I want to perform." And I was like, "Okay." So I go to the recital. My mom wasn't here. My dad came. Do you remember? Did you meet Shay McConkey?
Shay. Was she part of the radio station? Like, I don't.
Yeah. She was.
Okay, because like I do recall someone hanging out Yeah, with you.
She was like 2 years. I think we're in the same year.
Okay.
Like, I think, when did you start?
I started in 2011 and
Yeah.
I left in 2016, like May or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
we
March.
were there exact same time frame. So I think she started in like 2013 or something. But anyway, she came. And it was my dad and Shay, and it was in elementary school, but the preschool like annex part of it, and it was only like little chairs for children. There was all just like 4 to 14-year-olds and me. It was like, and they like, yeah, we're all sitting there, and then you were like 3, and you're like, man, I can't keep up with this 50-year-old. I was 24, and I was like, man, I can't keep up with this 8-year-old. These 8-year-old kids were just like, and then I went up and I was like, dun 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 dun, and I just like looked back, and Shay and my dad are just like,
oh man, that's hilarious. Like that's like a story. Okay, like that is, yeah. I mean, I can see how that can be traumatizing, but I also think that that's like one of the spices of life is just like, wow, like, you really have to get through. You got to push through whatever challenges life throws at you to do something you love.
By that point, I already understood that like I have been blessed with having a weird life and just like being aware of like weird shit either happens to me or around me all the time. Yesterday, driving back from a park, I see these 3 guys in these like Mexican guys, I guess, like in full cowboy, like rhinestone cowboy attire. Like they're from fucking Juarez or something. Yeah. Just stand. I've never. They're just there. I'm like, what the fuck? Then later, unfortunately, in Yaletown, and I'm like sitting outside. This like 90-year-old woman walks by in a prom dress, and it's just like. So I think when that recital happened, I was more just like, this is funny. This is like a weird, funny thing that's happening. Yeah. There's all like stuffed animals on top of the piano. Yeah. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, this is like a funny, cute thing that happened to me. Yeah. So that's I guess my takeaway. It wasn't so much trauma, just more like another chapter in a long series of weird things happening.
Life is absurd. There's I mean, like, even when you are in a great hall full of people staring at you, whether it's stuffed animals or people, it's pretty absurd that situation is even happening. Exactly. So, you just gotta be like, yo, like, I'm a superstar, just playing this keyboard.
You gotta own it. I think the worst one around that time, I also took singing lessons for a short period because I'm a bad singer. Yeah. And I was with this like older Russian woman who was very severe. She was like, the maximum amount of time anyone can be late is 3 minutes, and that is incredibly rude. And I was like, okay, that's good to know. Yeah. And I wanted, for whatever reason, sing "It's Lonely at the Top" by Randy Newman. That was like the song that I gave her. And, I don't know if you're a Randy Newman fan.
I am a Randy. Yes, I love Randy Newman. The other day I called him Andy Newman, and I was like, oh, he's Randy, because I was thinking of Toy Story and Andy.
But his like non-kid stuff is like very ironic, and she like couldn't get her wrap her mind around this song. She was like, this song is so weird. She was like, can't you just do like a Beatles song? Like, okay. And I did rock.
Just do the Beatles.
Yeah. It's like, I understand the Beatles and Tchaikovsky, don't give me some weird old Southern Jewish guy, singing about historical events. But yeah, and this one was a much bigger recital. It was like in a church, and it was just my dad, I think, who went. And I was, I had to, again, it was all like children. And then I went up and I like performed. I played the guitar, but I was trying to sing proper singing.
Yeah.
And I was like, Rocky Raku. It was like ridiculous, like trying to like sing it properly. I was like slowed down and just, yeah. That one was more embarrassing. That one at the end, I was like, oof, that was rough.
Was it more embarrassing because you like really put yourself into it? Like you really leaned into your artistic, creative?
Yeah, I don't know. You're a good singer.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate your kind words. I don't really think, I think everyone kind of, well, I'm just projecting, but I think generally people don't like to hear their own voice. I don't know. I've heard that before. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think singing is all about being vulnerable. That's like, it requires a vulnerability and like emotional honesty to sell, I think, on technique. And that was very hard for me. At that point, I was not able to be like emotionally vulnerable singing. So I had like the technique still was like stilted. And it was only like many years later, during COVID, actually, when I was like just by myself and I was trying to like learn country songs. And I'm singing the country songs, and I was like,
that's
no one's here with me. I can actually try to do this.
Yeah.
And I was able to be like vulnerable and actually try. And I was like, oh, I like how I sound when I sing this way. So I don't know. Do you find that to be the case, that it's like a very vulnerable thing?
Shower
singing. Have you always been a good singer?
What was that?
Have you always been a good singer?
No, no. When I was growing up, I have a story. It's kind of like how, you know, when you watch American Idol and you think that that's like the style of singing, you know, that you need to mimic and you need to be able to do those runs and like, you know, like I can't even do it. Like X Factor, that's my dad would always say, it's X Factor. Christina Aguilera, you know, think that. And then, so I didn't like appreciate my own singing voice. And I remember I had a friend that she really wanted to be on American Idol, and she was taking singing lessons, and but she didn't have very good tone, pitch, you know, awareness. So she always kind of sang out of tune, always. But her technique was great. But she was always singing. She was tone deaf. So, but like anyway. So I don't know, I guess why am I bringing her up? Oh yeah, like I don't know, I guess I kind of like didn't have very high expectations for like any of us in our small town. I was just like, none of us are going to be on X Factor and like American Idol because we don't sound like Christina Aguilera. And then when I was in New York City, you know, flash forward a few years ago, I just started to sing more in the tone of, do you know Hiatus Coyote? Am I saying the band name right? But I think they're Australian, actually, now that I think about it. But she sings like soulfully, and I'm more of like, like I can sing, you know, or like Corinne Bailey Rae, like either Corinne Bailey Rae or like I'm singing like, like kind of soulfully. And I realized that there are other ways to sing. Mm-hmm. And then I like that people can appreciate, and also it kind of mixes in with the whole funk. I like jazz and funk, like that kind of sound. Yeah. So I was like, oh, I'm just more geared towards that genre. So like just be like how you're saying about West, you know, country music. Like you gotta lean into like you
were born for the funk. And I was born to, you know, sing honky tonk songs.
Yeah. And like you just don't see it enough on like pop, mainstream.
Yeah. Or even for me, it was just like it seemed inauthentic to sing country music. Like it took me a long time to like country music. Probably in my mid-20s, I got into it. I love music now. But it was just like, I can't be like put on a fucking drawl or whatever when I sing, you know. Same with like soul. Like I love all types of music, but like, yeah, I would love to be able to like sing soul music, you know. But that, like, I was like, I can't do that. That's not like the only thing a person like me can do is like sing, is like at best sound like Lou Reed. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh no. I mean, Lou Reed is Lou Reed, right? Like we all love Lou Reed.
like it's just he's not the most talented singer. And then it was like
Dylan too, right? Like everyone says, like you kind of have to just own it and like make it your thing.
yeah, actually, I should rephrase that. He doesn't have a great voice, but he's an amazing singer. That's how I feel about Dylan.
Yeah.
I think Dylan is like one of the best singers.
Yeah.
He has a horrible voice.
Yeah.
Like, there's no question. It's like an awful voice, but he transmits so much feeling.
Yes. That's so
what's
important.
the best, you know?
Yeah. So the vulnerability aspect is for sure the like root of successful singing. Like I don't know.
Yeah, that's the best we've come to.
Yeah. And maybe we're all a little bit too hard on ourselves. So like focusing on what really matters, which is yeah. And the technique can follow later when you master just being vulnerable and confident with being like, here you go. Here's my soul. I've watched this music video like 100 bajillion times. So their views definitely has gone up like 100 times.
Thank you. That's what we need. I've got like 4 computers going on private browsing, just watching it on repeat.
Dude, right?
I'm joking, but like
I know.
You got to pump up the views one way.
You have to. Like,
I have a lyric video for like the band that I had with my neighbor in Halifax. It's been for like 4 years, and I think for like maybe still honestly, like if I search it, there's nothing else that comes up with that name. It's like song's called Ugly, the band's called the Baby Honeys. Nothing else comes up when you should come up when you search Ugly Baby Honeys.
Yeah.
And like if I search that from not my computer, it won't show up because no one is, or it will, but it'll be like you have to like search it very specifically or whatever, because it's just like it didn't get enough plays when it first happened, so it's like it relegated to the, you know.
I'm gonna watch it. Okay.
Oh,
what's the so Ugly Honey Baby?
Baby Honeys.
How did you come together with Be Afraid? Well, first off, who's Be Afraid? Like to you.
Okay. Yeah. So Be Afraid is probably my favorite local band. And I think so Nick, the backwards man in the video, it was him and Max, the other guitar player, have been like friends since they were like 6 or something. And I think they started Be Afraid when they were in maybe at the end of high school or something. Like, it's been around for a long time under different names.
Mm.
And then they would Be Afraid for a while, like in where they were more of like a rockin', like classic rock kind of group. And then they had a like lineup reshuffling maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And that's Ali and Lindsay, the bass, so he's the bass player, and Lindsay's the synth and singing. He joined the band, and Graham, I think the drummer, was in the band for a while. So I think that like really changed and kind of like upgraded their sound, because they were able to do more like vocal harmonies, boy girl singing, or like synth added all sorts of textures. And I just like, I love power pop. I'm a big power pop person, so
yeah.
I was really into that. And also Nick's like one of my closest friends. We met actually through CITR back in the day, probably 2014 or something. And then the band that I had before, that was listening party that had like Blake, you know Blake, like he was in it. And then we had our drummer went on exchange, and Nick was like, I'll play drums for you guys if you want. And I was like, sweet, cool. And then Blake left the band, Nick started playing guitar, and then we became we weren't really close before. We just kind of knew each other, and he volunteered to be in the band because he was like, I want to learn how to play drums.
Right.
And so through that, we became very close friends. And like our thing for a while was we would just like go to different diners and drink, have coffee and talk. And so anyways, like I've wanted to do film for a number of years, probably my whole life, but only like admitted it to myself like 6 years ago. And he's a wonderful guy, very has always been like supportive of that. He's honestly he's the only person. I have probably like 100 songs that I've like that are half written demos that I've like recorded an acoustic guitar singing into my phone. He's the only person who like he listened to like 25 of them and gave me like notes about each song. That's like a very nice thing to do, you know?
Yeah.
Because they're not like real songs, but he was
they're like seeds.
You know,
yeah,
they're song seeds.
Yeah.
So, anyways, this is all a lot of backstory, but basically, I've been a fan. Like, I genuinely like their music, but they're also like he's a close friend, and I don't really know the rest of the band that well, to be honest. But yeah, I feel like over the past few years, they've like become bigger in the local scene, and in my opinion, they're easily the most like professional band in the scene. Like when they play live, it's like, oh shit, like they actually know what they're doing. This sounds tight. Whereas like a lot of bands, you see them and it's like, oh yeah, that's a cool song, but like you guys you haven't like played this enough to be tight, and
it's not tight.
People picked up on this, and their newest album that's coming out next week is their first like physical release. It's going to be like on vinyl, local label. So that's all like really exciting, you know. And Nick was like, yeah, it'd be awesome to do a music video once like they were talking about wanting to do the album. So I was like, man, I would love to do a music video for you guys. So we talked about just me and him for like a few months and had all sorts of different ideas, none of which we ended up doing. And then, maybe in like April or May, we met up with the rest of the band. And I was like, hey guys, I want to make a video for you because I think you guys are great and I want to support the band. And also I want to make movies, and this is good experience for me. I was like, I can afford to spend some money, which I've never been able to do in my life. They were like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, let's do it. And then we met at the Princeton pub, and they came up with the idea for the video. We were just kind of shooting the shit. Like we had a general idea that we wanted like a kind of 90s vibe. The reference point in terms of videos was, the big one was 1979 by the Smashing Pumpkins. Great video, directed by the husband and wife duo that did Little Miss Sunshine. And then they came up with the idea of like running into their doppelganger selves. The original like sequence that's during the solo was going to be, we were like, let's do a green screen thing with like a silly, cheesy, old school green screen thing. And then we'll have the band like essentially enter some sort of like hell dimension. The doppelganger band is playing in their place. And then they see them and they're freaked out. And then the original ending was going to be, the very end of the song was going to be the normal band playing all of a sudden, and then the doppelganger band watching them and being like, you guys suck, and then leaving. But we at the last minute. So that's kind of how it came up. That's a long backstory of how I know the band and how we did it. It was basically, I was like, I want to support you guys on your album, and they were like, we want to like support you with your film desires, and it's the official thing that we can both help each other out. And it was just a very sort of serendipitous timing as well.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I love how, there's that, you're both equally supporting both ways, and your vision, like what your dreams are, like that's, and like it's,
and I love that, like you said, serendipitous timing. It's like they were looking for a music video and you were like, right now I need to make a change in my life
and do something creative.
First time in my life where I was like, yeah, I can put up the money to do this.
Yeah.
And that too. So it's like, had it been 2 years ago prior, probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Or like we could have maybe done it, but we wouldn't have been able to do what we did. Like we would have had to film it. I don't even know, we would have had to do it with like zero budget instead of slightly more than zero, which is what this was done on.
Totally.
And I thought, like, I've done some film stuff before.
Yeah.
And it's always been like my ideas or things that I've written.
Yeah.
And that was really fun because I was like, this isn't my band. It's not my story. It's not like a video that I would make for myself.
Yeah.
But let's try to like work to realize someone else's goal.
Yeah.
Create a vision.
Yeah.
I thought that would just be like really good experience and something that would be fun to do. And I saw some like interview with Karen O where she was talking about making a music video with Spike Jones, and she was like, yeah, he's amazing because whenever we were like, oh, we want to do this, he would just make it happen. So going into it, I was like, okay, I got to do that. So when they're like, yeah, we want to run into 5 doppelgangers of ourselves. We want to have a car race and a car crash. We want to like have a intergalactic green screen sequence. We want to like perform in a like
venue. Yeah.
I was like, okay, I have to make this happen. So
you're like, yes.
Yeah, found like the green screen studio, we were able to, we filmed it at Redgate, and like mixed.
That was where it was. I was going to ask you. I was like, where is this? It seems familiar. And also, like, who would allow you guys to just, like, come in and hijack it and just, like, do it, like, on this scale? Yeah. Redgate.
Yeah, no, very cool. We,
shout out.
Rave the night before. So we, like, filmed it from, like, I think, like, 9 to 5, kind of.
Yeah.
Day. And we had to clear some rave equipment and then filmed ourselves. Then we had to be out of there by 5 because there was a show that night.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so cool. They were just like, hey, you just have to you have to make it happen, but you guys got the space from this time to this time. Oh.
Exactly.
Hey, that's how, that's how things happen. That's how you just, gotta just go in and do it. Just gotta do it. Yeah. You just gotta ask people, and you just gotta go in and do it.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. It was just like, okay, and then like I have a friend from high school who has always wanted to do like cinematography stuff, and he has a camera, and I was like, okay, that's a big part of what we
huge. Yeah,
you want to do this, and he was like, sure. So then we figured out all of the equipment that we would need to film it, found places to rent the gear. Then, like, did all of the location scouting based on places that they wanted to go, and then also, honestly, a lot of it just like came up on the day. Like, I didn't know half of their doppelganger outfits until the day of, and then like for example, like I think every encounter except for the Bram encounter, like where it's in the parking lot and seeing a guy with the bear head.
Yeah.
And he eats the apple.
Yeah.
The apple was not planned. That was the only one where we were like, this is where this scene is happening. Everything else was just like, okay, where can we film this?
Right.
We're doing this. It was very kind of like spur of the moment.
You just went into your car and you like found spots. You were like, okay, we're going to jump out here.
Pretty much. Like, pretty much. We were like, and so the car race scene, we were going to do it in a totally different place. And then Max from the band was like, oh, why don't we do it by the port. That's a cool like area that we could do it. And that my dad went to the city, and he had to he like stole a bunch of pylons and put the pylons at, we didn't have any permits. We like pyloned off like, the street.
Yeah.
Like security guard from the port came up and was like, "Hey, do you guys have permits to do this?" And I just lied.
Yeah. No. What did you do?
And he was like, "Okay."
Yeah, because you already set everything up, and it's like you're just do it and get out of there, you know.
And like it's like random shit, like the shot of the band poster. I was just talking with my friend, the cinematographer, and we were like trying to find places at night that we could put up this poster to film it.
Yeah.
And this place that I've never seen before in my life just happened to be open. And we like walked in, put up the poster, filmed it. There's like some African like dance party.
Love it.
Ending. So you have all these like African people coming out while we're like filming the thing. And they're like, we're in a movie. And I was like, yeah, we're in a movie. And,
yeah, people love that. They were like, yes.
They're all super friendly and fun, but it was just like all of this just very,
good energy. You kind of need that too, because it's like you're doing this and you need that energy, and these people come out and just start like feeding you more positive energy. And you're like,
yeah, exactly.
Where they come out of their homes, like where they get picked up, are those places that they like each person actually relates to, on a personal identity level, or like, is it their home or?
Yes and no. So for the first shot, Lindsay is walking out of Allie's apartment building.
Yeah.
And we had to do the shot where it's like she's walking towards the car, because all the shots of her like face front, you could see us in like the window reflection, so we couldn't use it. So that it's not her house, but one of the other people in the band. Nick was picked up at their jam space. And Max was picked up in the basement or the garage of his building.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Allie and Graham, for Graham's was the one in front of the garage. I'd just driven by there and I was like, this is an incredible looking garage. It's so red and so big and all of these colors. I was like, this would be a good spot to film something.
Yeah.
And then the park as well. I was like, this just looks pretty. So I was like, we'll put you guys here. There's no significance to those ones.
Yeah, no, good choices, because it kind of creates like a whole, there's like a whole character, like world building thing happening there, because you kind of just go off into your,
Mm-hmm.
And was there like a Guy Fieri character?
Yes, like Lindsay's doppelganger. She's the hardest to see because she's, I guess, essentially in Fieri drag.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, she painted that shirt the night before. She was just like, yeah, I guess I'm going to be Guy Fieri. And I was like,
that's so cool.
Have you be Guy Fieri?
I love that she made that shirt. Like, that's the way to do it. You just have to make your shirt.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And that was one where I didn't know, like, they came up with the idea and I wrote a script just like based on their idea for them. And I invented doppelgangers. None of them had ideas for it. And I think for Lindsay was like business Lindsay. She's like a business person. And she was like, nah, fuck that. I don't want to be a business person. I want to be Guy Fieri.
Which is he's a businessman.
That's true. He is a very successful businessman.
How long? So overall, like, how long did it take for all of this to happen? Like, from shooting the beginning and shooting all of that. How long would you say?
I think we first met in May, came up with the idea then. And then we were going to originally film it in June, but that was too busy for everyone. So then we filmed it in July, I think, in like first week. Yeah, I think the weekend of July 8th, 9. We did most of the shots that weekend. And then we needed to get all the like driving shots and inside the car shots.
Mm-hmm.
We did those the next weekend for like half a day. And then we're editing up until like, 10 hours before the video came up or whatever. We really had to send it to the person. So I guess like 3 months, May, June, July, or 4 months. Yeah.
Right on. And it was always just kind of like, there's certain things you just can't control, and it's like outside of your hands. So you kind of have to just like work around, with the timing of everything.
It was supposed to come out a week earlier, but it took us a long time to get like a first cut ready. And then we sent and he had some constructive criticism. I was like, at first, I did not take that well. I was just like, you don't understand.
Right. Yeah.
Vision, like, what are you talking about? I was very defensive.
Yeah.
I took like a day, like breather to kind of be like, okay,
well,
this is what you want. And then I showed a few people who had no notion. They didn't know what the idea was. They didn't know anything about it. And they watched it and they had pretty much all of the same comments that he had. And then it was like, okay, well, they're right. And they were nice enough to, they pushed the deadline back a week. So then instead of having like 2 days to do like upgraded, we had 10 days and we really like locked in to try to make it better. And I think it improved the video a lot. Like, I think if the other version would come out, it wouldn't have been that good.
Yeah.
So you had to like cut back, or was it like trim off like a lot of stuff?
So as you know from watching the video, it's got a lot of story, a lot going on, and that was really hard to fit into like a 4-minute music video.
Yeah.
And so the first version that we had was way faster cuts to be able to get like more information in, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
But the issue ended up being that it was too fast for people to be able to understand it. And I think I've been like living with this for a few months. I understood it. I was like, obviously Graham is the guy with the hat. Like, how do you not see this, you idiots?
Yeah.
But then I had to take a step back and be like, wait, is it actually that clear? Maybe if we like hold on this person longer, then the audience will have time to like process what's happening, put it together. And then it was also, a lot of like rejigging to make sure we got the timing right. And because we probably, it's like half as fast paced as it was before. So that was like a big difference.
I kind of, now I'm like, I'd like to see the original one, because that's the kind of person I am.
Like now watching it, having to talk about it with me, it was also, it like wasn't colored or anything, so it looked like
right.
Everything.
It just was like blood.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I was just like, they just don't get it because it's not fully colored yet.
Yeah, right. It's not like pretty, like they just like, if it were prettier, like they'd be like, it's fine.
Vision. They don't see the final product, and then
right.
Turns out they did see the final product, and we're just like, it's not what we want. But I'm actually very glad that they did that. That was a big learning. I mean, all of this has been a huge learning experience for me.
Yes.
I don't know what I'm doing.
It's so important to work with within. I'm like, as much as I dislike restriction and people putting limits, and like, when you're creative, I think that it can be very challenging in a fun way and learning kind of way, because you learn what you never really thought before. Like, people, their brain, like it's about the audience.
This thing in particular, like, it wasn't my idea. It wasn't my video. It's not my band, So if it isn't the vision that they had, I'm screwing up. I need to make it like the other big, I think, like touchstone was the music video. The video has to match the feel of the song.
Right.
Like, I don't think this would have been like, you could have made a beautiful, gorgeous, like shot on film video of like someone dancing.
cinematography's like just
exactly like play or something, and that like the video could look a million times better than this one, but it wouldn't match the song, so it wouldn't really work, so
I by the way, it matches beautifully. It's
that's
perfect.
Nice.
It's like like I said, I've watched it like 100 times. The fact that I'm just watching it and I'm enjoying. I love the song. Oh, they're so funny. Like you get to know the band.
That's what I was happy about with it. Is like it feels true to who they are.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Another big thing was Nick's has another friend, Eve McRae, I guess, who does visual effects work, and he came on partway through to basically help us with the green screen effects sequence. And so we did all of that. That's pretty much all him. We filmed a bunch of stuff in the green screen place. He helped kind of co-direct that, and then I gave him the footage and was just like, okay, I want them to go through some sort of portal on the way in and a portal on the way out.
Yeah.
In the middle, I want crazy shit to happen to them.
Yeah.
Go for it. And then he kind of created that world, and him and Nick discussed it and figured out what they wanted. So that whole section is pretty much him. I gave direction on what I liked and but it was really, that was all him.
Right on. He did a great job. And the fact that he kind of came in at that point, it changed it made it happen. It's like...
Yeah. And then another change that happened in the last week, we added the gorilla to the and that makes that scene so much better.
It does.
If you didn't have the gorilla in it,
Right. Really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're in a different timeline. Was that stuntman Mike in the gorilla costume?
And Mike is my dad. He drove the other car.
Okay.
It's also really funny. There's all these doppelgangers, right? That's the story. So I was like, oh, we should have a doppelganger car as well, because they're driving around a lot.
Yeah.
And it happened that Lindsay has a Ford Focus station wagon, and my ex-girlfriend, who I'm still on good terms with, we're friends, also has a Ford Focus station wagon.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, can I use your car for this? So it's just completely by chance that we had two matching cars.
That is so wild.
Yeah, totally. And then my dad drove that car, and he did some of the little scenes. So I thought I would credit him as stuntman Mike.
No, he is definitely that's who he is now.
That was the drummer plan. He just had a gorilla costume.
There's always someone who has a gorilla costume just throw it in their closet, apparently.
He told me, he was just I bought this a couple of years ago on a whim.
Good.
His bear hat is from some movie. Some fantasy or action movie or something. And he bought it on eBay as a collector's item or something.
It looked familiar to me. I feel like I've seen it was a chainsaw. I don't know. Or I don't know. Who knows? He knows. I have questions for you. What would your doppelganger be, Eric?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me think. Sorry.
Give yourself some time to think about that. Yeah.
I've not thought about that at all.
Any impressions that just pop into your mind? Maybe it's not the perfect doppelganger, but some characteristics.
So I have a friend who plays in a local fun baseball league. And there's a guy on a different team in his league named Burpee, and Burpee's a weird guy. He's a short, stout man of ambiguous ethnicity. Who, his whole life is this baseball league. I think he shows up there at 9 a.m., leaves at 9 p.m. I think he has a deal where he sells people $20 worth of weed and they get a beer, or that he sells or something. and he's like always blasting really loud reggae music.
Yeah.
He wears like a bandana and like big baggy shorts and like a big oversized shirt. Sort of like you like how you would imagine a Sublime guy.
Totally.
And so I dressed up as Burpee for fun because I actually love reggae music.
Yeah, man.
You like Sublime?
Well,
yeah.
Yes, I like it a lot. When I was like 13, I wanted to get the Sublime Sun tattoo on my calf. So I like them a lot. But this was in Brazil. I had no context of what a Sublime.
Don't even worry about it. I kind of also don't either, to be honest, until someone told me recently. Yeah.
Enjoyed the band.
The songs are good. It sounds great.
Yeah. I think they're a good band still. And I also don't feel like people in North America, at least white people, don't appreciate reggae because they're like, I think the general idea people have of reggae is just like a white guy, like a white stoner bro in a dorm with like a Bob Marley legend poster.
Hacky sack type,
exactly. And it's like there's so much more. It's like the influence of Jamaican music and like world music can be understated, and is so vast and dynamic and interesting and beautiful that it's like I think it's really shameful, to be honest, that people don't respect it as much as they should. And I find this particular in North America. Like in the UK, it's huge. It's a huge part of the culture there. In Brazil, reggae is really popular. Everyone likes reggae. I think in like a lot of parts around the world, people treat it with the respect that like other genres deserve.
Yeah.
But it's like kind of like a jokey genre.
Yes. I totally know what you mean.
I guess dressing as like an annoying white reggae guy as my doppelganger maybe doesn't do a lot to promote the cause of reggae, but that would be my doppelganger.
I feel you. That's actually, I would appreciate it like on the level that you mean, because I like reggae music and I know what you mean. That's like a whole conversation we could have on another time, like where just the history of Jamaica and like reggae music, because I learned recently, my ex is Brazilian. I asked him tons of questions because he knew so much about like the whole reggae industry and how like it was like a guy, like a Chinese guy.
There's a lot of Hakka Chinese people in Jamaica that people don't really know about. And there's also like a Chinese Jamaican guy in Toronto, because Toronto has a huge Jamaican population, and he runs like this record store that's been around for a long time, that's responsible for bringing a ton of reggae music into Canada. And like, fundamentally, you don't have Drake. I don't even like Drake, but you don't.
I don't even know much about Drake. Yeah,
it's like, you know, you can be directly related to these like Chinese Jamaican guys, which no one would ever think of, you know, unless you knew about that. That's very cool, you know? I'm happy to talk about that because I guess maybe this is a Brazilian thing.
I think it is. I think that's, like that is something that now I'm realizing, because you're the second person that has really, I can feel that you have that love for. And then I met like a Brazilian, Australian, well, he's out here the other day walking dogs, and he also was talking about reggae. But so, you know, it is something that worth talking about. I guess there are a lot of Brazilian. When was the last time you were in Brazil? How long has it been?
I go all the time.
Really? What? Oh, word.
I was there, it was like January.
Where do you go?
So my mom, like most of the time we've lived in Canada, my mom has lived here, but she moved back last year. So now I go to see her and the rest of my extended family, because everyone else is there. But yeah, where is he from?
Minas Gerais. Am I saying it right? Minas. Yeah. Kind of country.
Yeah, it's one state over.
Yeah.
You ever go?
I almost went, but then I didn't go. So, but I was gonna go and learn how to make cheese with his grandma, because that is like a dream of mine, to like make cheese.
Fresh cheesemonger.
I used to be a cheesemonger and I love cheese. It has to be good milk.
Interesting.
What?
Yeah, I don't know much about the process of making cheese.
I actually became a cheesemonger on a whim because I needed a job, and I was at a place called Meckelberg's, which is in Clinton Hill, Brooklyn. A guy that I had a crush on, he brought me out there while I ran into them that night, like him and his friends who were all from like Montana. They're all from Montana, and they, cheese, Montana. I don't know, but they, he was like, I have a friend who's a cheesemonger here. And I was like, oh, cool, let's go there. And then like, I had some cheese, and then I was like, they were like, we're looking for a cheesemonger. I was like, oh, I know all the cheese. I was drunk. And then, yeah. And then, the owner is over there at the table. You should talk to her. I was like, I don't have my resume, but whatever, I'm here. And I sat down and I gave my interview like tipsy, and she liked my confidence. And I was like, I love cheese. I'm so down to learn everything. And then I actually have only had like mostly Kraft cheese and like Philadelphia cream cheese by that point. So
yeah. But you're like, I know everything there is to know about Gruyere.
I just like said that I knew everything about cheese, like general cheese. Didn't know what Gruyere was. And then the next day, like, was working with cheese and making cheese plates. And every night I would go home and I would draw each cheese in the display case to like really like absorb information about it, because I was like, I don't know how else I'm going to learn this. I need to like draw them and then like and write down what each one like tastes like and try each one. And then from that process I learned. So and then I worked there for like a year and a half, and then I became like they were like, you should do the cheese Olympics. And because like I was like cutting like opening like parm wheels, like I had like muscle. Yeah, like breaking them down. I saw an article where like a bunch of cheese, Parmesan cheese, like fell on a cheesemonger and like killed him.
So like,
I'm sure it happens at least like every few years.
Death by
The
cheese.
risky business. Death by cheese. Yeah. Well, that's very cool. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, what's your doppelganger?
My doppelganger would be a druid pirate thief.
Whoa, okay, mixing things up.
I'm a druid pirate thief. Yeah.
Dude, that's like 3 distinct mythologies. Fusion. Mythology fusion.
It is a fusion. Yeah.
This question might be like too loaded to address now.
Oh, let's go for it. You can ask anything. I'm open book.
Oh yeah, well I was I've had this question for like years. It's like a question I like to ask people, which is, if you generally I think with you I can keep it to music as well, because you're like a music person. People who aren't, I just explain it to like any famous person.
Sure.
But if you were to have been a musician of some sort, who do you think you would have been, and who would you like to have been? Because I think those are oftentimes different.
Who would I have liked? Who would I be, and who would I have liked to be? Or is it 2 different questions?
Yeah, because this is like an idealized version of yourself.
Let me just clarify. So first, it's who would you be?
Yeah.
Like, for sure. Like, you would really want to be this person. And then the other one's like, who would you like to be? Or like, is it dead or alive? Like,
the who would you like to be person is like, who would you be is like, if you're being totally honest with yourself about your like flaws and limitations, but still an idealized version of you as a musician, who would you be? And then who would you like to be is like, if I didn't have any of those flaws or anything, and I could just be anyone, I could do anything, I would be this person. So like for me, my response is like, if I could be anyone, if I were to have been anyone, it would be Lee Reed, because he's the coolest man to ever live. And like, he made incredible music and great lyrics and lived a fucking cool, badass life, and was just like, incredibly interesting person, you know, and insanely cool. But like, I know myself. I'm not that cool. I'm not that type of cool. I'm not that type of guy. I couldn't be a Lou Reed. As like most of my life, I've had deep dissatisfaction because I know that I could not be Lou Reed, even though I want to. But then I was like, okay, I would probably be like Ray Davies or the Kinks.
Right.
He's like, I think he's really cool, but he's more of like a weirdo, like artsy theater guy.
Yeah.
He's not like, the Kinks were never really a part of any scene properly. They were kind of always their own thing around other people. They wrote a ton of great music in different styles, but they also wrote tons of terrible music.
Yeah.
And I would be that kind of person. I would be like, that kind of, I think more of that like ironic or more of the like observational sensibility. But I also feel like I maybe Tom Petty, because it's like a similar thing where it's like, you're cool, but you're not actually cool. Like, cool people don't think you're that cool, you know? But you're still like a Wilbury, you know? You're still making good music. You're still interesting, but you're kind of dorky. You're kind of You're not like Tom Petty.
I totally know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
I know. Yeah.
That's kind of
that's fun
for me. So I don't.
You don't take yourself too seriously at the same time you are, because it's serious business to like do music and be fun and commit to it. But like, you're not like, I'm like a glamorous, like luxury, rock star. No, I would say for me, it's like, you know, Christopher Guest. Yes, I would. That's the vibe. Like, that's the vibe.
That's who you think you would be?
That's who I would be, because he's like, he makes music, he produces music, and just like you said, it's like totally kind of like a fun thing. It's like
for a story.
I can really see that. That's interesting. That honestly might be part of why I'm like drawn to the stuff that you make. I'm like I love Christopher Guest. I think he's a genius. And
then the other question was,
so do you like to be?
I would say George Harrison, because he's like really great at guitar, and like that's someone who I just like. He just, you know, like that's the ideal, you know, like to just be able to pick up any string instrument and just make beautiful music and like songs that are also like spiritual at the same time. And like, his music healed me during like a really depressing period of time. So yeah,
that's beautiful. So is it your favorite Beatle?
Yeah, because I like see myself in him a lot, like where it's like, you know, he had a mold put on him and he was very much trying to fight the mold always, and then he just like stopped fighting it, and then he actually became himself.
So that's very true.
That's
right. Yeah, he was always my favorite growing up. But I was like, what Beatle would I be? I know I'm not George. I don't have that personality.
Yeah.
I thought I would be John, because he's like the most political, the most like he writes rhythmic songs. I write sort of rhythmic songs. He's like the guy who is trying to hang out in different spaces, and like I just felt like, I would probably be John. But recently I think I would probably be Paul, because I'm like, as much as I hate to admit, I'll be like, in a band setting, I'm the one who gets shit done.
Yeah. You're the ringleader.
Yeah. So I guess I would be Paul, like by default, you know?
Right.
I don't know about you. Do you think we would be a George? I could see you being a George.
I'm totally a George. I'm the one who like walks off wounded, you know, after like some silly petty comment, like rejecting myself really, but like sulking about it. Totally. And wearing like really bright colors that are like shiny, and then I'm like some genie or something.
I love it. I saw some teeny bopper thing that the Beatles did, and there's like something about each one. And George's thing was, I like girls and I don't like getting haircuts. This is like right starting.
I don't like haircuts.
Dude, I mean, girls are fine.
Bro. I was page on this one.
When was the last time you had a haircut?
Actually, pretty recently, like, but I get haircuts like every 6 months.
Okay, so I caught you at a good time.
It sucked, actually. It was a bad haircut experience. But that's neither here nor there.
Well, you can't.
It was okay. It was just like a mediocre haircut. It was just like,
it was mediocre. You didn't love it.
There was nothing like that made it particularly bad. It was just kind of lame. I don't know. When was the last time you got a haircut?
Last time I had a haircut was in January. So yeah, it's been like 6 months. But I like cut it real short, so it's like now it's finally at like it's not bad.
What was that?
Are you gonna grow it out or cut it again?
I don't know. I mean, like I had it really long before I got it cut short in January. Like I had it so long that people were like, you should just keep going. But it was like to see how long it could go. And and then I had like a massive like life change. So I just was like, cut it off. Yeah. It was metaphorical.
Yeah. Well, it's a good reason.
Okay. Erik, it's been really real. Like I actually want to keep talking to you, like, but then I just feel like I'm being selfish. So,
it's been an absolute delight.
Pleasure chatting.
Great interview. You had good questions. Those are
thank you, and thank you so much. You had great answers.
I talk a lot.
That's me too. So, but I actually love that you talk a lot.
Just like any subject, just be like, Erik, what are your thoughts on balconies? I got 20 minutes of material,
We'll talk about that next time, about your feelings about balconies and your feeling about them versus terraces.
I actually had a conversation about that. And I have takes. So yeah, prepare your takes as well.
I will. Okay. All right. Bye.
Peace out.
All